To this meeting of the Board of Education. This meeting is being televised live on AACPS TV and live streamed on the internet. General information and protocols for the meeting are posted on the sign by the doorway as you enter the room, so please make sure you read those if you have not already. And now we will call the meeting to order with the invocation. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance. Stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2.03 is approval of the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Okay. Item 2.04 is establish agenda order, and the agenda stands as written. Item 2.05 is recognitions, and we have a presentation.
Good evening. I'm Ryan Vogelin, Director of Student Services, and with me is Constance, representing the Olivia Constance Foundation. We are pleased to be here to present tonight's recognition. Before we begin, I'd like to ask members of the board and Dr. Alato to come forward. Members of the board and Dr. Alato, the Olivia Constance Foundation is more than a partner with Anne Arundel County Public Schools. It is an extended family member of the school system that provides resources that support our core values. In particular, the foundation, formed in memory of late Broadneck High School student Olivia Constance, continues to sponsor a student competition that honors those committed to creating change through the arts. In addition, the Olivia Constance Foundation continues to award grants to schools which provide a number of services to support marginalized youth and are designed to build the capacity of young people to make a difference in the world. The Olivia Constance Foundation continues to live its mission, which reads, "To do all the good we can for whomever we can in the spirit of Olivia." Tonight, we are here to recognize the winners of the Foundation's poster contest, and at this time, I'll turn it over to Chloe.
Good evening. As Ryan said, I'm Constance, and I'm very glad to be here this evening. The Olivia Constance Foundation was started in the fall of 2011 in memory of my sister, Olivia Constance, who lost her life at the age of 14 from a tragic sailing accident here in Annapolis. The foundation does a number of things, including scholarships and grant opportunities. We started working with the school system in 2013 by providing grants to support anti-bullying initiatives in the school system. To piggyback those efforts, we created this arts contest called Creating Change Through the Arts. Not only do we recognize their achievement and artistic skills this evening, we gave each winner a cash award, and we also matched that award to a charity of their choice. We have great kids in our county, and we are excited tonight to unveil the winners of our Creating Change Through the Arts. I'll announce the winners, who will come forward as their names are called. We have Talia Van Nostrand from Solly Elementary School. Her artwork is titled Be the Change, and her charity is UNICEF. Next, we have Allison Thomas from Crofton Middle School. Her artwork is titled True Beauty, and her charity is St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. And Jordan Tharp from Meade Senior High School. His artwork is titled Embrace Diversity, and his charity is GLCCB of Baltimore Central, Maryland.
great job to all of the winners. The posters are wonderful. Item 2.06 is school and community highlights. Miss Nally.
Last night, I attended the Mighty Miler track meet at Annapolis High School. There were over 300 participants from 11 elementary schools: Annapolis, Davidsonville, Eastport, Georgetown East, Germantown, Monarch, Academy, Mills, Perot, Rolling Knoll, St. Andrews, Tyler Heights, and West Annapolis. It was really an exciting event. Two of my grandchildren were in it, and they were so excited. And I just want to thank the Naval Academy. The marathon team came out in force. When the bus unloaded, my granddaughter goes, "Oh, the midshipmen are here." And they actually ran with these around the track. Each team, each 8 of the heats ran the mile track. And this was, but these midshipmen were so wonderful and encouraged them. And it was just a great event. It was very cold, but it was a great event.
I had the pleasure of attending the Performing Visual Arts Quarterly Showcase at Brooklyn Park Middle School last week and see some of the great art that's being produced there by the kids. And then yesterday I went with the Wellness Committee to tour Oak Hill Elementary School, which is one of our wellness schools of distinction, and they were showing off all that they're doing, and they're doing great things there. So that was a nice visit to have. I want to give a shout out to all of our parent advisory committees that we have. I attended the Special Education Citizens Advisory Council meeting last week, and along with our other advisory councils, we just get invaluable information from all of our families that come back, and I took notes and learned a lot, and we'll be following up with things from there. The Board of Education held our 3rd annual legislative breakfast Monday, and we invited all of our elected officials to come and hear what our priorities are for the coming legislative session. For instance, some added calendar flexibility and pre-K expansion and funding, so that we can work together with our elected officials moving forward to do more things for the school system. And then a quick shout out, we had 3 state champions named last weekend. Chesapeake and South River Field Hockey won their state championships, and Severna Park Cross Country. So way to go, athletes. It's now time for the public comment portion of our, oh, I'm sorry, Connor. Crask report, come on. I skipped you.
Good evening, Dr. Olato, President Hummer, and other members of the board. My name is Connor Curran, and I'm a freshman at Old Mill High School and the Secretary of Education of Crask. This month, our president has had the privilege to sit again on the School Board Appointment Commission, where she will have a direct say in who fills the vacancy. We are proud to have a student on the School Board Appointment Commission for the 2nd time because we know how much our school system values student voice. We are transition between advisors at the moment, and we are excited to meet our new advisor in December. Crask heart and condolences are with the friends and families of the 3 students who we have lost over the past month. Can everyone please join me in a moment's silence in their honor? A series of events that has cost the lives of 3 students is devastating to our community. This is why Crask has and will continue to push for better mental health access at our schools. We need a place where students are taught how to cope with such tragedies, talk about their experiences, and seek help. The pressures and experiences we face as teenagers are very overwhelming, and we need additional support. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to honor and represent students of Anne Arundel County.
Thank you, Connor. And now it's time for public comment. So Anyone wishing to speak on an item not on today's agenda may offer testimony during this public comment portion of the meeting. Speakers are allotted 3 minutes each and may not allocate their time to others. A tone will sound when time has expired. The board asks that comments remain civil and appropriate for the various audiences that may be watching or viewing this meeting. Student-specific and personnel matters are confidential and cannot be discussed in this forum. It is not the board's general practice to engage in question and answer session with speakers. For the record, please give your name before speaking, and handouts should be given to the board assistant. There are several issues that are currently on the appeal docket for the board. This is not the forum to present the case for a specific appeal, and if a person begins to make that argument, I will ask you to stop and save the argument for the appropriate appeal forum. The public may, however, speak on concerns about current policies and issues. And Robert Silkworth and Pam Bukowski to start with.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings, President Hummer, Vice President Gilliland, distinguished board members, Dr. Alada, and friends. My name is Robert Silkworth. I'm the chair of the High School Concerns Committee, and I'm here once again to represent the High School Concerns Committee and to give you a brief report or summary about our most recent meeting, which happened to take place just a few hours ago. As reported earlier this school year, the school year opened smoothly, and we have all settled down. Quarter one is done. A round of assessments have been given, and parent conferences have been held. From my perspective, I know that great things, in fact, fantastic things, are happening each and every day in our high schools. I can report to you, however, that stress levels have been high among students and staff, and everyone is dealing with that as best as they can. They're dealing with this workload issue that seems to always rear its face. I guess it always comes around because as stakeholders, we all do care. Our job on the High School Concerns Committee is to help provide information and recommendations to help alleviate some of the pressures of workload and stress in our schools. And so let me just give you a few issues that were discussed today. One, the recent quarterlies. We have some new assessments with some new curriculum in science particularly, and we've also had some new windows for testing, which were very helpful, but also provided a few bugs that need to be fixed. Last time we talked about sub-coverage, loss of planning time due to the need for teacher coverage. Since the last meeting, we have provided many suggestions to Dr. Kubik, and we will continue to do so tomorrow in the ASI TAC Advisory Group. We also did touch a little bit about some professional development in high schools and how things seem to be going and some concerns about that, and we will also share that information with Dr. Kubik and Dr. McMahon in the ASI meeting tomorrow. We did have a few other things that we talked about, but the things that I mentioned are really the most important. I generally end my talk with some kudos, and I have to say congratulations to Josh Carroll, South River High School, Maryland Teacher of the Year. We seem to be on a roll, ladies and gentlemen. I also would like to extend a very warm thank you to Terry Gilliland. A few weeks ago in our last football game, Terry was our honorary captain at our last football game. And I have to tell you, we've had a little bit of a challenging year in football. But you know what? Terry on the sidelines, and you know what? Kickoff goes to one of our players, and he runs it the entire length of the field for a touchdown with Terry on the sidelines. Terry, you need to be there every game. Also, in light of what is coming up next week with Thanksgiving, I would like to extend a sincere thank you and merci to all of the board members, all of the board staff, all teachers and staff, and all parents and guardians for each and everything, for everything you do each and every day for the students that I'm able to teach. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Silkworth.
Okay. Good evening, President Hummer, Dr. Alato, members of the board. I'm Pam Bukowski, Vice President of the Teachers Association, speaking on behalf of the association. Educators in Anne Arundel County exemplify the highest caliber, quality, and commitment. Student-centered, they give the very best and do not settle for less. But with only one marking period down, workload is an issue. A recent survey was sent out to our members with a return of 1,110 responses, almost 20% of TAC members. I'd like to share a sampling of some of the frequently received comments. I wish I had a suggestion for making it better. There's just not enough staff to do our jobs well. It's so frustrating and discouraging. The new curriculum in grades 3 to 5 is so time-consuming it is ridiculous. I'm so frustrated. They do not make things easier. My entire team is working hours well beyond the required work week in order to just get by. Our workload is relentlessly increasing and our salary's not even close. It is sad that I'm considering switching to PG or Howard because of the money when I love my school and job. Allowing teachers to have more work days or planning time. The average teacher is working at least 3 to 5 extra hours each day and 1 full day on the weekend. Teachers teach during the school day and only have planning 3 days a week. Please address working conditions for teachers, such as how many preps we have to teach, students per class, telephones in class for safety and convenience. Reducing class sizes. The way the county estimates the teacher-to-student ratio needs to be revamped, and one day I had 10 new students added to my roster after school had started. The 30-minute unpaid lunch needs to be removed, and teachers should only be at work 7.5 hours, not 8, to compensate for a 30-minute lunch we still are not getting. When will all elementary teachers receive a more equitable distribution of planning time as compared to secondary teachers? The majority of elementary teachers have 6 to 9 preps, which includes 3 to 4 preps for guided reading groups alone. We are still drowning from the lack of planning at the elementary level. Help. The number one need for me professionally has always been smaller counselor caseloads. It significantly affects quality of life, and not only do counselors and their families suffer, but students suffer due to the unreasonable demands of caseloads far exceeding national recommendations. Please get data collection and meaningless planning meetings eliminated so I can do my job. I appreciate the fact that you've allowed us this opportunity to speak, and we know that we do not go unheard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bukowski. Okay. Next is Vivian Spencer, Jonathan Hill, Mary Johnson, Yasmin Jamison, and William Rowell. What? And you can go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Vivian Spencer. Due to a prior out-of-town commitment, Alderwoman Sheila Finlayson could not attend tonight's meeting. As a result, she asked me to act in her behalf by reading this letter, which she has electronically submitted to the board. President Hummer, Representative of the Annapolis area, Mrs. Patty Nally, members of the board, and Superintendent Arlotto. As Alderwoman representing Ward 4 in the city of Annapolis, I must share with you the deep community concern over your policy to eliminate bus service for students attending Annapolis Middle who live in the communities of Annapolis Walk, Newtown 20, Woodside Gardens, and other communities along the west side of Forest Drive. Last evening, I hosted a community meeting, and we were joined by your staff, Alex Zakovnich, Les Douglas, and Jolynn Davis. I'd like to thank them for coming out to our meeting. The purpose of the meeting was to give the community an opportunity to hear and understand why the decision was made to eliminate the bus service. It was also aimed at giving the community an opportunity to be heard, which had not occurred prior to the decision. The deep-seated concerns were primarily related to the safety of the children. Concerns ranged from the frequency of accidents along Forest Drive corridor, the number of curb cuts necessary to allow vehicular access to businesses, the heavily wooded area that students must walk past on their way to and from school, the number of sexual offenders in the immediate area, the recovery station located along the route, previous accidents involving students who walk the routes around the school, inadequate crosswalks, the lack of crossing guards, which I know is a city function, the inability of the city to hire and train crossing guards in a timely fashion to meet the school system need. Had this request been made in the spring when there was the first indication of a need, then we may have been able to address the need more quickly. This is just a partial list of the concerns. Many more I trust you will hear this evening. I write to ask you to take 2 actions this evening. First of all, I ask that you postpone implementation of the elimination of the bus service to these communities until the community's concerns over the safety of their children can be addressed. Second, I ask that you direct staff to reevaluate this decision, taking into consideration the factors listed above, as well as the human factors that put middle school children in danger as they walk along a very busy stretch of highway that is prone to accidents. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Sincerely, Sheila M. Finlayson, Alderwoman, Ward 4, City of Annapolis. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spencer.
I want to say good evening to the board members, and thank you for this opportunity to stand before you today. My concern is I have some letters here that I know some of you have already reviewed. So I'm not going to get to great detail with that because I don't want to waste up all my time with my 3 minutes that I have. But my main concern is that once I receive the letter indicating that my children will be actually no longer having bus service, it stuns me to know that they was not able to have it. My main concern was that within our area of 21401, there are 48 registered sex offender. 20 registered sex offender is walking towards Annapolis Middle School, which is the 21403. 10 of those registered sex offender within the area code 21401 are homeless. And I can also indicate to you in the direction that I received from the Annapolis Transportation Unit indicated that the way that they wanted my kids to go, the 1900 block of Forest Drive, you got a sex offender there. In Yahweh Peters Way, you got a sex offender there. Royal Street, you got a sex offender there. The 1700 block of Bell Drive is a sex offender. The 600 block of Greenbrier, you have a sex offender. So that was one of my main concern. In my job duties that I have as office supervisor at the Maryland Corrections Institute in Jessup, I've been working there for 33 years. And you can imagine what I have seen. So my thing is to have safety, not just for my children, for all the kids. You never know when a sex offender is going to attack your kid because they prey on them. And the way that they walk to school, you never know who's going to jump out the woods on them. My other concern is that as they on their way down to Forest Drive, they're going to be walking past the First Step Recovery Program, which is a full service for substance abuse, which also issue out Suboxone. I have nothing against anyone who's receiving treatment and trying to get help. But in order for you to have our 11, 12, and 13-year-old kids to walk past a treatment center where you know people that's coming in and out in the kind of state that they're in. So I'm asking that they reconsider the 27th date and review what is going on for the safety of our children.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Hi, my name is Yasmin Jameson, and I don't have any children in the school system anymore, but I care about all children. So when I found out about this, I was shocked. And I'm here to just object to the discontinuation of the school bus service to Annapolis Middle School from Newtown, Annapolis Walk, and Greenbrier. I'm here to ask you to please put a hold on the implementation of this, this whatever you want to call it, on November 27th, because last night I was at the meeting and there was more questions than answers. So I just don't understand how you can even go implement it with all these questions that these parents have and the concerns they have for their children. So I didn't really write anything. So I was just shocked, and that I don't think there was a public forum held so that you could hear their concerns before these decisions were made. I don't even know who makes the decisions. So I'm just asking you guys to please listen to all their stories and all the concerns they have, because their children's lives matter to them just as much as to all the rest of us. So I'm hoping that you will tonight vote on this and vote it to at least give it a postponement until we can get more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jameson.
How you doing? My name is Jonathan Hill. I'm a community activist and truck driver, and I also came to speak on the same issues that we're speaking on tonight about the safety rather than the distance, and how it was determined that these children won't receive bus services anymore. I have a couple of things, quite a few things to add to the safety issues of the children, just as much as the issues on the actual Forest Drive. So this being cold weather, when children go out, they're less prone to drink water because they don't think about, it's not hot outside, it's cold. But people tend to be more dehydrated when it's cold than it's hot because they forget to drink water. But these are children we're talking about. So you as a parent, you can say, hey, go drink some water because, you don't want to get dehydrated. But as a child, it's like, oh, yeah, Mom, I drank water. But they leave out the house and they have a long distance to walk before they get to their destination. And that's in hot weather, too. And that even it's also accountable to the 5 to 7 pounds that they may have in their book bag taking this long walk. That also plays a lot on their frame and things of that sort. So that plays a lot on being fatigued. And that in itself will drastically reduce their academic production in school. But then once they get to school, they have to go to gym. And that even further has to do with the fatigued. And then they have to come back home. Walk back home. In the last 7 years, there's been 3 situations where they have widened Forest Drive in 3 different places. And what I'm going to tell you has nothing to do with what actually happens on a daily basis. But in 2 incidents, there were 2 people, and these people were competent people, were decapitated because of being hit by cars. I mean, literally heads. They had to actually find the people's heads. That leads me to my next issue, that they said that, in certain situations where safety was concerned, if there was 50 miles, if the speed was more than 50 miles an hour or 50 miles an hour, then that would be a safety issue. There's no one who drives on Forest Drive at 40 miles an hour. No one. No one here. No one. And so that's a big issue. Again, with the child predators, and then the immediate medical attention that probably will be needed when you have a child walking back and forth to school that has asthma. Who's going to be there to say, oh, I know what to do, so let me help this child? No, they may die on the spot. And with nobody to help her, no bus attendant, no driver or anything of that sort. And then it's also open to more gang violence that's going on in these neighborhoods. It increases dramatically with the gang violence that goes on and make them totally susceptible to it. And these are just a few things that is very, very unsafe for these children. And and I thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Hello, my name is William Rowell. I had an opportunity, along with some others, to walk through some communities and find out from actual residents which issues were the most important to them. And one of the issues that obviously comes up and is actually probably in every community and every household is the safety of their children. So a lot of our conversations right now, citywide at least, are about crime and drugs. And within that inherently is the safety of children and, of course, how they get to and from school. So again, in part of the conversation that I had with them and some of my dealings with you all as a body before, again, the relevancy of having diversity in policymakers comes up, and in particular in dealing with some of these communities. So perhaps it was an oversight, this decision that we're talking about. We're hoping that it was just an oversight, but perhaps it wasn't. And the reason why I say that is because fair and equitable busing in the past has been considered somewhat of an experiment of how you move children from specific communities into other communities and how you kind of balance socioeconomics and race in specific schools. And some would call that desegregation, an aspect of segregation. Busing is an incredibly important variable in that equation. And it brings it up right now for me because when we talk about equitable busing, we're also talking about who makes those decisions and who's impacted by those decisions. So what we do believe is that this decision and that particular policy should be considered from a kind of community up standpoint, almost a grassroots standpoint, because it is incredibly impactful when you talk about families who have strategically and historically been resource starved. So these are also communities that are food deserts and that don't have transportation sources in terms of public transportation anyway to go achieve gainful employment, and that all feeds into what goes on in those communities. Mind you, the people that live in these communities are not victims, nor are they powerless. And what we're finding out right now with the recent elections in Annapolis and the swing vote is that some of these communities actually elected the mayor, who spoke about change, who spoke about change and empowerment. So a part of, I believe, being progressive for you all as a board is to also consider some of the implications of those decisions. So what I ask right now to end this is that you all revisit that policy as best you can, and if possible, also give a voice to some of those people who are trying to raise children in those communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. Next, Jaden Hill, Allison Thompson, Alice Kane, Dominique Gillis, and Dominique Scurry. And Jaden, I love it where it said for your phone number you put I'm 10, which means you don't have a phone. I love it. So, isn't that good? I was looking and going, what is that number? I'm 10. Yeah. So.
Hello, my name is Jaden Hill. I'm a student and an author. I have two concerns about the bus taken away. So, same thing as my dad said, Jonathan Hill, that if they have asthma and they have an asthma attack, they can't get help from anyone because they're not on a bus and they may die. And I have a concern about Forest Drive. When I was coming from my house today, the sign was bent all the way to the ground because of a recent car crash. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jaden.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Arlotto, President Hummer. My name is Allison Thompson, concerned parent. I have a student that just started middle school. I'm very proud of that. Well, I'm a little concerned about the fact that throughout his academic career, he's never walked to school. He's had the privilege of utilizing the school bus service, and I thank you for that. But, I mean, as we are trying to transition along with your decision to migrate children in those 4 communities, and I am one of those members of the 4 communities, that we don't have like a school crossing guards. to help them into this transition. I mean, you know, walkers, I mean, you know, usually when they start out in kindergarten, they have their parents that could probably walk them to school. But, you know, middle school, they really don't want their parents aiding them in the process. But I would feel more comfortable if we cannot discontinue the transition those students to walkers, if we could have crossing guards at key areas where they can be visibly seen as they move through the areas that are heavily congested with traffic. As Ms. Johnson mentioned, that there was a substance abuse community center there available for those that are trying to improve their lives. And I thank you for your time. And
thank you, Ms. Thompson.
Hello, my name is Dominic Gillis. I am a concerned parent. My son has just started middle school. He's in the 6th grade. As you know, he's 11. All 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, they don't listen. You could talk to them till your face is blue. As they tell us, talk to your children, train them to walk in the order that they're supposed to on Forest Drive. As we know, children are not going to listen. Me, as a concerned parent, it has already affected our community. A child was already hit in our community in the decision-making of this process. And now you're telling us that you're going to take the bus from them. It's not right. I mean, we have children that just don't listen. I'm one parent who stands at the bus stop every morning and tell kids get out the street every morning. They don't listen. I mean, I'm asking that you guys take this in effect. You were talking about little kids that still think as younger than what their age really are. Please take it into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gillis.
Hello, good evening. My name is Dominique Surry, and I'm one of the concerned parents that wants you not to take the bus away. But I just have some little short things that I want you to hear. First, I feel that it wasn't enough notice given to the parents about the issue. Second, gangs, neighborhood rivalry, sidewalks, walking with the traffic and not against the traffic, as though they're walking, and if a car do jump the curb, they're unable to see it. It's behind them, so if they're walking forward, if a car comes, at least they have time enough to get out the way if they're watching, walking against the traffic. And then, again, registered sex offenders along with wooded areas for abduction, maturity level along with bullying, which kids play around or bullying if they're walking. Maybe somebody get pushed in the street or whatever, because you have some kids that bully. Parents that's working check to check, not able to get correct clothing for the weather, since it's ready to be November 27th, and which is cold outside already. And some of the neighborhood kids do not have hats, do not have coats, maybe not ready for your thermals. They might not have thermals to walk in this weather. What else? Children first time walking to school, just like you're taking your kids to the pool and just throwing them in and say, go ahead and swim. Parents that depend on the bus transportation because of work, accident, and speed that occur on Forest Drive, and most of all, the overcrowded 7-Eleven that's there. Every morning, it's truck drivers that go into work, and everything, and that is just an accident waiting to happen. Because for them to walk across, it's going to be traffic going in and out. My biological kids attend Annapolis High School, but I have nieces, nephews, and children that I look out for and I love, and I hate to see something happen to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scurry.
Hi, I'm Alice Kane. I'm here as an Annapolis Middle School parent and also a commissioner on the Annapolis Education Commission, which, as you know, works to promote equity in Annapolis City schools. I'm here tonight because I attended the community meeting last night, and what I heard really shook me to my core. I heard parent after parent, including these with me up here now, pleading with your representatives to rethink this because of fear for their children's safety. Pleading and sharing all of this information, and the response I heard was really completely inadequate and disconcerting. And as a parent trusting you with my kids as well, the lack of judgment makes me question judgment on all kinds of other decisions as well. It was deeply, deeply disturbing. We heard about the 48 sex offenders that these children can encounter. We heard about the addiction outpatient treatment center with opioid addicts coming and going as the kids are walking by. We heard about the extended stretch of Forest Drive where everyone in this room drives 50, 55 miles an hour, and where one of my son's friends was hit by a car when he was riding his bike home last year, and another student was hit earlier this month by a car. We heard about Spa Road. I've walked that stretch of Spa Road after a PTA meeting to 7-Eleven on a nice day. I thought, oh, I'll walk and get some exercise and get a cup of coffee. I was terrified with the cars whizzing by on Spa Road, the traffic coming in and out. I will never do that again. I'm a 50-year-old woman, not a 12-year-old kid. I mean, it is unconscionable. And I beg you, go walk the route yourself before you implement this. We've heard about the bad weather. It's getting darker earlier. I heard from parents last night who said they would keep their kids home during bad weather. I don't know how much snow and ice we're going to have this winter. I do know the snowplows shovel it up on the sidewalk, so then the kids have to walk in the street. And I would keep my kids home in that situation too. That's not going to help with the attendance rate. That's not going to help with with achievement and student performance if kids aren't even in class. So, you know, I understand that your goal is elevating all students and closing all gaps, and I think this is just shooting that goal in the foot and causing a lot of unnecessary harm and anguish that could so easily be alleviated if you could just take a step back, look at this decision. Maybe the policy made perfect sense when it was first made. You know, we heard last night, you know, policy, policy, policy. This is the policy. We have to implement the policy. Well, policies are made to be revisited, and if I've ever heard a policy that needs to be revisited, this is it. I, as a parent, trust you all with my kids every day, as does every parent in this room, and this is your opportunity to step up and show us whether you're worthy of that trust.
Thank you, Ms. King. Okay. Next is Denise Holliday, Vicki Gibson, India Oaks, and Robin Schmidt.
My name, excuse me, I have a cold, so please forgive me. My name is Vicki Gibson. I'm here representing the Anne Arundel County chapter of the NAACP and the Caucus of African American Leaders. We are here to express our concern about this situation and what appears from at least the broad view that there appears to be a disparate impact that this policy is having on minority communities. And I don't want to regurgitate what everybody else has been saying, although I have to point out that I've been impressed with how the clarity of thought that has gone into the statements that have been made today. And I would implore this board to show leadership and show concern for every child. You know, when we talk about the whole debate over the Black Lives Matter movement, there's no different here. You know, it really raises the concern, do you care about your minority children the same way that you care about white children? If there were a whole bunch of white parents here talking about the sex offenders, the drug addicts, and, you know, the safety issues, the decapitations, would we be having this conversation? I don't think that we would. You know, so I implore the board to show leadership and send the clear message that you care about all of the children in your school system the same way. You know, you want them to be safe. You want them to be out of harm's way. You know, you want them to have the same access to resources. we're also concerned about the whole, due process issue of here you have a service that's provided and all of a sudden you take that service away, but don't give anybody an opportunity for advance comment or that they have appropriate evaluation of the safety and, whatever other considerations might be a reasonable thought process. It's my understanding that there was some software or something that was bought and that there was some effort. I could be wrong, but that's what I heard, that there was a software that that there was some effort to make up the financial gap. You have to send a message to your constituents in Anne Arundel County that all children matter and that you're not going to sacrifice the lives of people in underserved communities to make up a monetary gap. So I would implore that you not just postpone the decision, that you completely reverse the decision for this school year until it can be properly vetted and evaluated, and that the appropriate safeguards can be put in place if, in fact, it's determined that a change should occur. And in my personal opinion, based on all the issues that were raised, it's utterly irresponsible to make these children to walk to school, with drug addicts, sex offenders, decapitations. Really?
Thank you, Ms. Gibson.
Hi, my name is Thomas Holiday, and I am a parent of a 7th grader at Annapolis Middle School who will lose transportation because of the board's decision. I was told at a meeting last night that by a supervisor of transportation that this decision was made based on a study that was done in 2014 regarding traffic hazards. And since 2014, if you just walk out your door, you see the construction going on. 3 or 4 businesses was added to West Street. 4 housing complexes was added along Forest Drive in the streets off of Forest Drive. So my main thing is just asking that you at least postpone until updated traffic hazard study can be done.
Thank you, Ms. Holland.
Good evening. I am India Oaks, mother of a 2nd grader and president of the Hillsmere PTA. I am here tonight to provide public comment on 2 different issues. First, some of you might have had the chance to read the letter I sent to the board earlier this afternoon regarding your vote on November 1st on the Verizon wireless easement, but I wanted to also go on record that members of the Hillsmere PTA are in opposition to having a mini cell placed next to our school. As expressed in more detail in my letter, at best, studies on the impact of wireless radiation say that more studies are needed, while at worst, there are several studies that already find that such exposure can lead to significant health problems, especially for children and pregnant women. Given the hundreds of children and dozens of women of childbearing age that frequent Hillsmere, along with the daily activity across the street at Pell Park, we believe the installation of the mini cell, without any valid research proving it is safe, brings great danger to the Hillsmere elementary community, and so we are asking the board to reconsider its decision and rescind its approval of the easement with Verizon Wireless. The other item I wanted to briefly touch upon is that Hillsmere has serious concerns for our future fellow classmates from Woodside Gardens and Newtown 20 who will be losing bus transportation to Annapolis Middle School. We are aware of the updates being made with the new transportation software, along with some improvements to sidewalks, but the reality is, Forest Drive remains a dangerous road with almost 37,000 cars driving along that specific corridor each day, at high speeds, and we should not force students to be placed in such dangerous condition. There are 16 open entrances to streets or parking lots that the kids will need to cross along the route, and a 2016 study showed that the most accidents on Forest Drive occurred at the intersection immediately next to where the kids will start walking on Forest Drive. Snow and ice and darkness also factor into the safety of traveling on the sidewalks along Forest Drive. Therefore, in support of the families residing in Newtown 20 and adjoining communities, we ask that you reinstate bus transportation for those communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oak.
Hi, I'm Robin Schmidt. I'm a teacher in this county for 25 years. I went to school in this county. I'm an alumni. I love this county, but as Ms. Pam Kukowski said earlier, I've never seen teachers so stressed. They come in the beginning of the year, they're still stressed about the pay and everything they're getting, but now they're stressed about the workload because it seems to be getting more and more and more. But what upsets me more, and why I'm here, is I had two daughters who have gone through this system. My last one graduated last year, the one graduated the year before. They're both in college. My oldest daughter rooms with 5 other girls, 3 who are education majors, 1 which will come out this year and 2 come out next year. We sat at dinner and I talked to them about, would you ever consider Anne Arundel County? And this is what they told me. First things out of their mouth, Mr. Schmidt, we're sorry, but no. My question was why? 1, you don't pay your teachers. 2, you overwork your teachers. 3, it seems like your county doesn't care about your teachers. That's the perception at one end. My other daughter who started school this year and is in a group to help her down there, she found 4 education majors there. She was at the dinner table with us. She talked to these girls and she said, would you? She called me and said, Dad, they basically said the same thing. Anne Arundel County has a bad reputation outside our walls. We're a county that doesn't want to pay their teachers. And we have more and more teachers leaving every year. This is my 4th year at Annapolis High School. I'm going to tell you right now, 60% of the teachers I was with 4 years ago aren't there today. My daughter, who was a senior last year, dropped out of 2 AP courses because those teachers had left. They had been there 8 years. We're losing teachers from 7 to 10 years. They're going other places because they want more money. They also say it's because they don't feel appreciated. And we don't. I'm going to be honest. I don't feel appreciated in this county at all. I feel that we're taking, well, if we can't have you, we'll have somebody else. That's how I feel. And that's the feeling from a lot of teachers. I want them to stay. My 2 daughters got what I would consider the best education they could ever have gotten. And it's from those teachers. But the teachers my daughters have had through kindergarten, through 12th grade, 73% of them are gone. Now, I will say, I figured 15 or 20% of them moved or retired. But the others are still teaching in the state of Maryland. And they're not here. And to me, it's a really sad point. And I hope we can take consideration. And I think this board, the union, and the politicians all have to come together and stop fighting and say, what can we do to make it better for everybody? Thank you. And Mr. Reinhardt, it's nice to see you. I always considered you a voice of reason. I like you up there.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Okay. Judy Loftus, Peggy Ullman, Travis Ritchie, Michael Marinello, and Jennifer Arnold.
Good evening. My name is Judy Loftus. My youngest child is 9, and he used to love to go to school. He now dreads going to school, and he recently asked me if I've ever heard of something called homeschooling. A statistically valid survey of the parents of the 64 fourth grade parents of the Arnold Elementary School children housed in 2 trailers in the rear of Severn River Middle School found his reluctance to go to school is shared by 34% of his classmates, and 50% of the children feel uncomfortable in their classroom. They have to be in that classroom for nearly 7 hours every day. We understand that there are classrooms across the county with larger class sizes because of the county council's failure to properly value and fund the education of our children. We get that. However, you need to understand the uniqueness of our children's circumstances and act immediately to restore an acceptable learning environment for our children. We need you to immediately address the needs of our children with learning differences who are not getting the accommodations that they are legally able to get. Our children and their teachers need you to immediately reallocate funds to support a 3rd, 4th grade teacher and classroom. The following circumstances are preventing our children from learning and our amazing teachers from teaching effectively. First, the trailers are loud, so loud that the kids can't think. The trailers are overcrowded. We've got 64 children and the staff in those 2 trailers. The classroom space doesn't even have room for them to do small group pullouts. Second, this particular class, it contains an unusual high proportion of high-energy kids, and it is 67% boys. We have ADHD, anxiety, stress, and some other issues. These issues have contributed to behavioral concerns for these children from kindergarten through now. Historically, a class of 20 has been difficult to manage. Third, we're about to get more children because a lot more houses are being built. Most importantly, there are special education regulations. How can a child get accommodation of a reduced distraction in a trailer that is full of distractions and overcrowded? How can they get preferential seating when they push their chairs back and they hit another chair? They hit another student. My son has an IEP, and during a recent county test, he sat in a classroom with 31 other kids. He has an accommodation for reduced distraction. The impact of these things are noticeable. Our children, all of our children, are coming home socially, mentally, and emotionally exhausted. We're asking you to take into consideration what these people are going to say and to fund a 3rd teacher and 3rd classroom. You need to bring in another portable. You need to do something for our children because our children are suffering, and we as parents are very focused on education. We want our children to do well. Our children want to do well, and you have children who love school and now hate to go. Not just kids that struggle at school, but all of the children. It's across the board. Please help us.
Thank you, Ms. Loftus.
Hello. I'm Jennifer Arnold. I am a teacher here in Anne Arundel County, and I'm a mom of 4 children at Arnold. Yes, that's 4 elementary school kids. So out of the 4, it is my 4th grader that comes home with the complaints of the noise. He's the one that I've noticed the drastic drop in grades. Whereas before he was principal's honor roll, he now brings home more failing grades than any of my other 3 combined. Today, there was a handful of D's and E's in his notebook. I do appreciate Dr. Kubik's response last week to our letter that we had written. She did provide some solutions. One of them was to put an additional TA in the room. Unfortunately, my experience, the TA is non-certified and not adequately prepared to teach the Common Core math curriculum, which is what my son seems to be struggling in. He is in the remediation program. He does stay after school. That doesn't even seem to be working. They have called in mids. The midshipmen come in. My son tells me that he's often instructed by the mid or the TA. Perhaps maybe this is not working for him. Furthermore, in regard to student testing data, this is one of my concerns. 4th grade is often looked at when placing children in middle schools. So, looking at my son's testing data from 4th grade, obviously is not going to be a true reflection on his abilities for when placing him in 5th and 6th grade. This is a concern for me. I don't see that that ultimately that problem is going to have lasting results. Finally, I'll just finish up. My husband is a builder in Anne Arundel County, so he does have a lot of information onto the 3 communities that are being built in Arnold. Admiral's Ridge, there's 42 lots. Arnold Overlook, there's 24 homes there. And there's a new townhome across East Joyce Lane that is so new that they don't even have a name for the community yet. However, they are going to be building 46 townhomes there. So that's going to be, if you add them all up, 112 new townhomes and or single families right in the vicinity of Arnold Elementary School. This is during the years that our children are going to be housed in the portables. They are up for sale now and ready for delivery over the next 2 years. Looking at the marketing trend, the seller's top feature is the school district and obviously the vicinity to the Blue Ribbon Arnold Elementary School. The population increase will undoubtedly increase the 4th grade population at Arnold. And that is a concern of mine.
Thank you, Ms. Arnold.
Good evening. My name's Travis Ritchie. We have 3 children at Arnold, a 5th grader, a 4th grader, and a 2nd grader. Just moved here this summer after being stationed overseas, so was excited to get the kids back in the U.S. school system. The 5th grader and the 2nd grader are doing just fine. It's the 4th grader that we noticed would come home. None of the paperwork had been looked at. She wasn't sure what she was supposed to be doing, etc. That's when talking with all the parents at the school had the same concerns. I understand when these policies, you're looking at a huge district, many schools, and so certain things like the buses, it looks like maybe on paper they should be able to walk, but that's why I appreciate you having us here so we can talk to you and give you the mitigating circumstances. And much like that, if you look at the circumstances at Arnold with the temporary facilities, my daughter is on her 3rd teacher in 3 months. So the first teacher went on maternity leave a month into school, and then for some reason the substitute that they had left. So now she's on her 3rd teacher in 3 months, above average number of boys in the classroom, and then temporary facilities with thinner walls, tighter spaces, so it's very loud. And just ask that the board correct this issue so that half class at Arnold doesn't get left behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie.
Good evening, President Hummer, Dr. Arlotto, members of the board. My name is Mike Marinello. Also at Arnold Elementary, I've got 1 student currently, 2 recently graduated now at Severn River Middle School, and a 4th on the way eventually. She's a couple years behind. Although I'll tell you honestly that this year has given me great pause. We've never experienced something like this in the time that we've had our kids in the county school system. This has been a unique year. And my son, like the other stories you've heard so far, has had a different experience this year and has come home in a much different way than he has in the past. And it's largely attributable, from my perspective, from my wife's perspective, it can't be attributable to anything else but the class size issue that we're dealing with. We have 65 kids in the 4th grade among 2 teachers. When I first learned that at the beginning of the year, and I saw that there was going to be 32 kids in my son's class, I thought, what are we doing to our teacher? I mean, how is somebody? I don't know how the most experienced, most competent teacher could possibly handle 32 or 33 9-year-olds in an effective way. That's a big ask. When I fast forward a week later, when I walked in for the back to school night and saw that she was 8 months pregnant, I thought, now really, what in the world are we doing? Now we're going to transition 3 to 4 weeks into the school year to a new substitute teacher, hand off 33 kids, and expect her to pick it up and keep running with it. When that time came, there was clearly some indications that it wasn't working well. I raised my concerns at that point with the principal of the school, which is something I had wanted to do at the beginning of the school year. The response I got back was that Arnold had tried to get a third, fourth grade teacher, but was told it's not possible. I was told how the school ratio is ideally 1 to 28 for fourth grade, and that 4 students over that ratio was not enough to justify another teacher. So in my mind, the ratio, suggested ratio or recommended ratio is not 28 to 1, and it's not 32 to 1. It's something above 32 to 1. So I'm not sure what it is, but I think coming into this meeting, we were told it's not about the number. If it's just about the number, then get in line, because we have a lot of those problems across the county. When I looked at the 2016 report by the Maryland State Board to the General Assembly about class school sizes, in Anne Arundel County in elementary schools, I saw 1% of all of our classes had sizes larger than 30. In elementary and middle schools combined, I saw 0%. What that tells me is, number one, this is an important enough issue that we're giving a report to the General Assembly every year. And number two, this board and our system recognizes that a school size over 30 is unacceptable. You hear a lot of issues. I appreciate all of your time and the things that you have on your plate. We implore you to take this issue to heart and take it seriously. Our students can't continue to struggle with class sizes of 33 and 32 people with one teacher on our third teacher this year. We've lost our first substitute. We're on our second substitute. We're going to transition back to our primary teacher in a couple months, I guess. So they'll have 3 transitions in one school year, and we're not even past the first marking period. So I ask you, I beg you, please take this seriously and allocate the resources needed for a third, fourth grade teacher at Arnold Elementary.
Thank you, Mr. Marinello.
Good evening. My name is Peggy Ullman. I am a parent at Arnold Elementary. I have boy-girl twins. I have one in each class, and so I'm seeing it on both sides. I have the well-experienced teacher who knows what she's doing, who is busting her butt and is still having a hard time, just keeping up with it all, and trying to help out the less experienced substitutes. And then, this consistent issue of, 3 teachers in 3 months is ridiculous. My children are very, very different from each other. I have a daughter who's a rock star, who's, school comes easy to her. She's struggling. She hates school for the first time. I have a son who has always hated school, has always had a rough time, and he's drowning. And he's drowning. And we are having a really, really, really tough time. And as much as responsive as the school has been, it's been very challenging because they're getting it on all sides. They're hearing it from almost every single parent in the 4th grade about how overwhelmed their kids are. I want to be absolutely clear that this has nothing at all to do with the administration or the teaching competence of Arnold Elementary. They have been fantastic. They have done yeoman's work. They are trying everything they can to make this work. They have brought in, temporary solution after temporary solution, the mids and the teaching assistants and all of that stuff. They are trying everything, and it is A, not working, and B, they're adding more people. You have 3 mids and a TA on top of the 32 kids and the teacher and whoever else they pull in. They're pulling in the reading teacher, the special ed teacher to help with math. It's physically, those rooms are just way too crowded. The hall, when you walk down in the portable, the hall shakes and it's too hot. You can't close the doors because it gets either too hot or too cold in the room depending on the temperature. So you got to have the doors open. The noise level is deafening. We had parents who went for Halloween and said it was absolute mayhem in the classroom trying to get ready for the Halloween party, and they'd never seen anything like it, and they didn't see it in their other children's classrooms who were not in the portables, who were not as overcrowded. You're hearing a consistent theme tonight from everybody. There's just not enough resources in the county dedicated to the schools, and it's hurting our reputation. With 100 new buildings coming in specifically to Arnold Elementary, if we don't do something, we're going to lose people. We're going to lose the teachers. We're going to lose the tax revenue. We're going to lose the administrative support. We need nothing short for this particular situation because of the uniqueness, nothing short of a third qualified teacher and a third portable works. Nothing. Everything else has just been Band-Aids. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming in and continuing to advocate for your children and the Arnold community. If there are a couple of you that would like to take the time to meet with Dr. Kubik, I know you've been in communication with her, so you've got a name and a face and somebody to communicate with directly here with central office, as we want to work with you to try and solve the problem. I do not have a teacher to send to Arnold tomorrow, and I do not have a trailer, a portable classroom to send up to Arnold tomorrow. And I want to make that really clear. So in the meantime, if we're even able to get another teacher, which right now we don't have the allocation for it, is we need to try and work with you, the teachers and the students, to try and come up with some solution. So there's a team with Dr. Kubik and some facilities folks that were out walking the building today. Maybe there's a possibility of moving the large fourth grade classes out of the little portable classrooms and into the main building, and that could assist. Bringing in a co-teacher to work with the long-term sub that's there to help with the classroom, and bring somebody in over a long several-month period to help co-teach in that classroom to assist. So it's sort of a perfect storm. We've got some issues going on with moving out of your building because it's under construction, and having to move into trailers and having a large class. So that's a large class size. Fifth grade doesn't have that. Your second, third grades don't have those large class sizes as big as the fourth. So there's several issues that we have recognized. We'll continue to meet and look to problem solve, but there's a couple of you that would like to meet with Dr. Kubik. You all can step out into the lobby and have a name and a face and somebody to directly communicate with. Thank you.
The bus situation is under appeal, and so it's not something that we can address directly from the dais because it's now under appeal. But I can promise you that that is something that is, and the parents that have appealed will have a full opportunity to hear that, and we will be getting back to you on that. But we cannot issue under appeal. We cannot discuss the details or things in the public forum. So our next batch, Alex Dulla, Craig, I'm sorry, I can't read the last name. It's about South River High School. So Craig from South River High School. Maura Butner Schinder, Lisa Taylor Soriero, and Mike Shea. Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, board members. My name is Alex Dulla, and I'm currently a senior at South River High School. I'm here this evening to bring attention to the unresolved issues regarding senior graduation ceremony protocol, specifically the recognition of valedictorian, salutatorian, and top 5%. Earlier this year, with a 7-2 vote supporting the continuing acknowledgement of these positions, the Board of Education adopted an amendment to employ both systems of the traditional valedictorian, salutatorian, and the Latin honor system of recognitions at graduation. Despite this decision, we are a quarter of the way into the school year without any clear resolution to the matter. The traditional practice of valedictorian and salutatorian delivering speeches at graduation is a practice I believe should be continued. As current ranking valedictorian at South River, I feel the elimination of this honor, especially only a few months away from graduation, is an injustice. I have worked tirelessly for years pursuing academics as it is my passion. I don't play sports, and I'm not in the arts, so I find my joy in learning. Though I can understand the perspectives of those who oppose these recognitions, I believe the transition from the traditional system to Latin honors should be introduced gradually or with an incoming freshman class. The students who have worked hard to achieve academic greatness over the last 3 years, including the top 5%, salutatorian, and myself, have done so with the promise of receiving recognition at graduation. Personally, I remember at my older brother's graduation, I was told, if you work hard enough, you'll be in that front row, and if you work even harder, you might even give that valedictorian speech. But now, this honor is in jeopardy, so I respectfully request the Board of Education to maintain the recognition of valedictorian, salutatorian, through the respective commencement speeches at graduation, as well as the recognition of the ranking top 5% at graduation. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon.
Hi, my name is Craig Kozalek. I've been in the ACPS school system all of my life, so thank you. I've had a great experience. I know some others might have had some concerns, but I've had a general good experience. I'm currently the salutatorian at South River High School. And right now I'm I didn't think I'd have to be here tonight. I went to my brother's graduation 2 years ago, and they combined the Latin Honor Society, or Latin member recognitions with the top 5%, and everything seemed to work very well. I don't understand why we would phase out one over the other. And then I, on the other hand, did try to play sports. I tried to play varsity soccer, and I got cut. I was out that baseline. The coach pulled me into the office, and he said, look, you're the last guy. We can't have you on the team. But instead of, I learned to move on. I wasn't in the, so for this example, I wasn't in that top 5% that got on the team. And I learned to move on. So when the people that are frustrated, which I understand, that don't make the top 5%, which don't get to make their speech, are frustrated that they didn't get recognized at graduation, well, I think that's a lesson for them where they learn to move past their failures. I'm sorry, it's a bit time. Bit nerve-wracking speaking in front of a bunch of adults. So I'm a little disappointed because this was kind of in a haze. I haven't really seen anything about this. I just learned that 2 days ago. Our principal let Alex Stulo know that this would be happening, when I'm pretty sure that they voted a couple years ago that we'd have what we've always had, which is to make a speech. So some friends that wanted to be here tonight, my friend Dylan Cyphers, Alexa Anderson, Katie Sullivan, Xander Kelmer, would have liked to come and speak, but they were tied up at a cross-country banquet. But they would also support keeping the 5%. It doesn't make sense to me why this would be a county issue when it's our graduation at a school. So I was hoping that you guys would let our principal and our school decide how our graduation would run. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Moira Butner-Schneer. I'm a parent at Severna Park Elementary School, and it sounds like you have quite a few issues to deal with, but I just wanted to take a moment to commend Anne Arundel County Public Schools and the Superintendent, Dr. Arlotto, for convening a committee to study the issue of recess and review the current practices in AACPS. Under the leadership of Ms. Jackson, Deputy Superintendent of Students and School Services, I understand that best practices from Maryland and around the country are being examined. And as I understand it, the committee will be providing elementary school principals with recommendations as soon as January of 2018. You, I'm sure, are all aware, but there is a large body of evidence pointing to the importance of recess for the development of children. While most of us are familiar with the physical benefits of recess, including helping children to achieve the recommended 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity per day, the research shows that unstructured breaks that recess provides is necessary for optimal cognitive processing in children. A period of interruption after a period of concentrated instruction allows the brain to process what was learned. Contrary to what some of us might have thought, research shows that unstructured breaks are more beneficial than shifting structured activities. Interestingly, the benefits of these breaks applies equally to adolescents and to younger children, and I would say, I'm sure we've all had the experience around the water cooler, to adults also, right? In the elementary schools in the Severna Park area, which were the ones I had talked to, children are given a single 20-minute recess, usually following the lunch break. Research suggests that allocating several recess breaks during the day, for example, one shorter morning recess, a longer midday recess, and another shorter afternoon recess, results in children who are more attentive and more productive in academic tasks. Additionally, scheduling recess before lunch has been shown to reduce food waste, improve children's behavior during lunchtime, and in class following lunch. I know that AACPS has tried to address the need for children to move more frequently throughout the day by introducing structured movement modules throughout the day called Move, Move, Move and Healthy Minds, Healthy Bodies. And while this is commendable and should be continued as another valuable teaching approach, the research shows that unstructured breaks are more beneficial for cognitive processing. Teachers in our district also use a digital service called Go Noodle, in which a short televised song, dance, or skit is projected in class to promote desk-side movement. And obviously, while the need for movement and breaks in the classroom is great, as parents, we have been recommended to place strict limits on the use of screens and media for our children. We all know that gone are the days when our children didn't know how to use computers. That's no longer an issue. And so because of this, I feel strongly that schools should strive to provide our children a screen-free education, especially as studies that examine technology's impact on learning have found that technology-based interventions tend to produce lower levels of improvement as compared to other interventions and approaches. So I'm eager to hear about AACPS's Recess Committee's recommendations, and I'm very hopeful that we will be on the forefront of what is sure to be the next wave of educational innovation, which is ensuring that our children have sufficient recess to reach their cognitive, physical, and socio-emotional potential. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Lisa Taylor Serrero. I'm from Shadyside, Maryland. As you know, I'm very deeply concerned about the proposed cell tower at Shadyside and other schools in our county. I'm really disturbed by the process that is currently in place, which allows the community to speak, but it does not give weight to the community input. If, when the master lease agreement was renewed by the board, at that time you determined that all sites were an approved target for cell towers and therefore don't need to be considered for a vote on the individual sites, and President Hummer, you kind of explained that to Mr. Grannon, then you're essentially admitting that there's no purpose of holding the community meetings or taking the community input because it's already been voted on over the master agreement. So that really shows a problem with the process. In addition, we were told at the community meeting by a board representative that our input would be considered and that it would come up for a vote. There was no consideration since 99% of the people at the community meeting, which is recorded on tape, adamantly opposed the tower, and there was no vote. We were told by Milestone that they held full insurance on the site, but the indemnification clause in the master lease agreement clearly states otherwise. We were told that it's out of your hands. At this point, there's nothing more you can do, and that we should take it up with the county and permitting. But according to the master lease agreement, that's not true. It comes back to the board for final approval after they get their permits. So you can still say no to this. I don't understand why you're doing this. You claim the process is transparent. However, how was the public informed about the indemnification clause? How are we informed that once the tower is approved, they can build another tower on the site or add height to an existing tower without further approval? We just weren't told about it. We were asking questions and we weren't getting those answers. How much time are you willing to spend on this issue as a board? We're just one school, and we've been here a million times and sent out a million emails. I mean, we're not going anywhere until this issue goes away. You know, you're going to be seeing a lot of me in my nervous speeches. I, of all people, understand, and I'm asking for your understanding, that sometimes people get emotional when it comes to the health and safety of their children. And I really do offer my apologies to anyone who's been offended by anyone who, including myself, who, you know, might have said something that offended you. I mean, I need to just do whatever I can to protect my kid. And I hope that you don't dismiss what we're saying and all the facts and studies based on mannerisms. We're supposed to be on the same side, protecting our kids. We're on the same team. And I hope that you please reconsider this and put an end to this lease with Milestone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sorier.
Gentlemen, regarding your issue on graduation, would you do me a favor real quick before you leave? Would you have a quick conversation with Dr. McMahon, our Deputy Superintendent, about some of your concerns so she can get them directly from you?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shett.
Good evening. Mike Shea from Shadyside, Red Top Farm. First of all, I speak in solidarity with Hillsmere PTA. No more targeting of elementary schools with cell towers, please. We need to be like our neighboring counties that have excluded cell towers on elementary schools. Last board meeting, Member Grannon asked what the policy is on discrimination and what the relationship between the PTO and the PTA and the school system is. Last Wednesday, I went to the policy committee, and the policy specifically is no discrimination. That's clear. But on the relationship between the PTO and the PTA and the school system, I think they've stumbled in an honest attempt. The use of facilities manual, right here, which was used, talks about 10 classifications of users of our schools. The number one classification is PTOs and PTAs. They are labeled as a school-sponsored group. The policy on handouts to the PTO, PTA, and inserts to the student folders, there's policy on this. I could go on, but the written and implied relationship is clear, and that a school-sponsored organization carries with it responsibilities not to participate in discrimination. There's a relationship. It can't be avoided. This Thursday, we were all welcome to the Shadyside PTO. Special thanks to Teresa Tudor, the PTO, PTA liaison. A welcoming table inside the building of materials and sign-in was a substantial progress in the right direction. Teresa additionally added helpful guidance at the meeting. Hopefully the worst is behind us. And we've all learned from this incident of discrimination. Also, the concept of it's no longer in our hands. This milestone agreement targeting Shadyside Elementary is no longer in our hands. It's in the hands of the planning and zoning people. Let's be clear. The amendment to the master agreement, to the milestone agreement, makes clear that this targeting and approvals have never left this school board in this administration. Page 2, Article 5, you will read the decision is here at the very end, and you have the ability to vote it up or down at any time you want. It's never left here, and that is why we are going to stay here until it goes away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Alana Schwartz, Catherine Ney, Janet Norman, Holly Clatterline, and Linda Nguyen.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Nye. I am a resident of Severna Park and currently reside on West Early Heights Road. We are one of the proposed neighborhoods to have our school bus eliminated for middle school children. We have no sidewalks. Currently, we are in communications with the county engineer, Eric Tabachek. We have had a traffic study done in our neighborhood. The results as of right now are incomplete. We do not have them. The traffic that flies through there is ridiculous. A neighbor was hit on his bicycle by a driver who took off. He lived to tell. About 4 to 5 years ago, another man was hit farther down the road. He was not so lucky. It was a fatality. Please do not take away our school buses. Our roads are not safe. We are working with the county to try and improve them. It's not happening. Sidewalks were proposed for Jumpers Hole. They're not there yet. When they're there, maybe eliminating the bus at that point might be up for discussion. I don't think it should be. Our children's safety matters. Their lives are at risk with the traffic that goes through that neighborhood. I have video on my doorbell security camera. I'd be willing to share it with any of you to show the cars. I have to walk my child to the school bus every morning because it's not safe. Please consider returning your information or using this information and overturning your decision on that. Thank you.
Ms. Schwartz, yours is officially under appeal, so you
wrote a letter of concern. It's officially officially under appeal?
It's officially, we have it officially listed as an appeal. So, you can't make your arguments here because it'll come up for there. So, but that's to let you know too that we have it and it's under consideration.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you do not want me to talk?
No, you can, but you can't. But you can't be making your arguments for your appeal.
Okay. To piggyback on what Kathy said, my name is Alana Schwartz. Thank you for letting me take a moment. We both have children at Oak Hill Elementary. I'm also a parent at Severna Park Middle School, and the bus stop that Kathy is talking about is at Early Heights and Sabrina Lane, and it's a spot where our kids actually have to jump out of the road with cars coming. Walking down those streets, my husband and I've had to jump. They're very narrow streets, no sidewalks at all. So with concerns already with elementary school children, and then possibilities of, I've been really thankful that my son has had a bus for the middle school to be able to go. Middle school's hard. It's hard. It's mentally, it's emotionally, it's physically draining. And for kids to be walking and worrying about dodging cars when they're worrying about trying to juggle 8 classes, it's crazy. But please take into consideration that we've got a lot of safety stuff in our neighborhood. While it might look really safe with 25 miles an hour, people don't drive 25 miles an hour. That's why there's extra barriers that are around and dents and all sorts of things, and people have gone into people's like front yards, and it's nuts. So it's only getting bigger and no changes have been made. There's no structural changes that have been made. So just please take that into consideration with safety of our kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next? Okay. My name is Janet Norman, and I have a handout that I'd like you to have while I'm talking, please, if that can be handed out. I'm asking you to please provide the parents of the county accountability in how your transportation department serves the students of the Annapolis cluster and other clusters. It's been a constant concern of the Annapolis Education Commission, where I serve as Ward 7 representative. I'm also a parent of students who've gone through Annapolis Middle School. If our outgoing mayor, the Annapolis Education Commission, and parents were not informed prior to your published decision, perhaps you should reconsider your ways of collaboration. Function or dysfunction within transportation is your purview, and the buck stops with you as members of the board. When my neighborhood off of Forest Drive was annexed into the city from the county, traffic studies were done for the annexation. The city has those data. Speeds of 54 miles an hour were routinely recorded along Forest Drive, 3/4 of a mile south and east of Annapolis Middle School. So the city has data on exactly how fast cars are going on Forest Drive. And I can't imagine that you would consider crossing Forest Drive at Spa Road, where the 7-Eleven is, safe in any means, even if you're a great athlete adult with good judgment, which the frontal lobes of our middle schoolers have not developed into that. So that's very, very unsafe. And also, by your decision, you are pushing the burden, the economic burden, onto the city of Annapolis to provide crossing guards, and pushing that onto us, one, in a short time frame, and two, that we take on that burden of you who should have provided the transportation for those students. The school system makes $76,800 per year from the cell tower at Annapolis Middle, but because the policy was enacted a couple months after it was constructed, your policy of cost sharing, Annapolis Middle got none of that money for any cost share on that. But you're making quite a bit from the cell tower. We ask you to take our students' needs into consideration. The paper I have for you that I'm hoping that you have in front of you, was that handed out, ma'am? Okay. Shows the park results for the Annapolis cluster. We had great math teachers like Mr. Schmidt, who was here. My son was lucky enough to have him teach geometry at Annapolis Middle. But if you look at the last paragraph, I presented these data to the Annapolis Education Commission on our examination of our park scores and achievement gap. Math 8 at Bates Middle. 18 out of 135 African American students in grade 8 passed either Algebra 1, where you're considered college or career ready, or Math 8. So that's 13.3% of the cohort, and 87% did not meet that standard. So every day that you keep a kid out of school because it's not safe, it's pouring rain, every day that kid is not in school, we are furthering the achievement gap in the Annapolis cluster.
Thank you, Ms. Norman.
And I hope you can work on that. Thank you.
Good evening, President Hummer, Vice President Gilliland, Dr. Arlotto, and board members. My name is Holly Kleiderlein, and I am the school counselor for 694 students at Oak Hill Elementary in Severna Park. Thank you, Mrs. Hummer, for your visit yesterday. I'm here tonight to advocate for more elementary school counseling positions. I planned to speak last month, but I was exhausted. 30 minutes before the end of that early dismissal day, I was needed for a student in crisis. While helping to de-escalate the situation, I forgot to place the weekend food bags in the lockers. Students had off of school the following 2 days, and I knew not having those bags for 4 days could create a hardship. So after my duty, I loaded the food bags into my car and delivered them to the houses, then continued on my way here to the board to drop off Oak Hill's PBIS trifold, which provided highlights of the only PBIS system in my cluster. I couldn't stay because I needed to get to Carver. At Carver, I was trained to provide effective and ethical support for my current cohort of National Board candidates. That lasted until 7 p.m., so I arrived back here around 7:30. That Wednesday was atypical because everything seemed to happen on the same day, but it does typify the involvement of elementary school counselors in every tier of support on the intervention triangle you highlight in the Code of Student Conduct. I've provided you with a copy as a visual. Statistically, 80% of students respond to Tier 1 supports, 15% need the further interventions available in Tier 2, and Tier 3 interventions are needed for about 5% of the student population. You'll see on that handout I'm very involved in all tiers of behavioral support, but I'd like to focus on Tier 2. At the elementary level, I am, and school counselors are, the only Tier 2 intervention. I am either the point of contact, the coach, or the leader for everything available as a targeted intervention. With a school my size, that's 105 students. That's about the same number as the people who were in this room at the beginning of the meeting. Imagine that every adult that was in this chair, these chairs, represents a child experiencing anxiety, depression, homelessness, hunger, poverty, family addiction, abuse, neglect, a chronic health problem, grief over the death of a loved one, social isolation, or another emotional condition that is interfering with their ability to perform their best. I have intervened with each of these concerns so far this year. Is it okay with you that I'm the only one available to provide Tier 2 support for all of them? Now imagine as I reach out to the behavior support team for help and the automatic email response is, "I'm sorry, I'm not available to help. I'm writing curriculum this week." This outrageous caseload problem took years to create. It's going to take a long concerted effort on your part to make it better. And with 50 additional housing units that are in the process of being built, I don't know how many students I'll have to support. Thank you.
And Ms. Kleiderlein, great job on that. You headed up that wellness application, and your school is doing great things. You're doing great things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Linda Nguyen. I live in Shadyside and am the mother of 2 future Shadyside Elementary School students, and I am proud to be one of those people who keeps coming back to talk about this bad milestone deal. I'm trained in policy analysis and picking apart what I have been able to gather through public information about this deal with Milestone Communications. It is bad policy, plain and simple. From a public health standpoint, a legal standpoint, a public relations standpoint, and from an economic standpoint. I am curious, how much time are you and your staff spending on this one bad deal? As each school is put on the milestone chopping block, time and money is spent by individuals, even at the highest level of your administration, to defend this bad deal. Has anyone besides Milestone done an up-to-date benefit cost analysis? Even since you renewed the master lease earlier this summer, things have changed. There are more facts out there about the health effects of cell tower radiation. Prince George's County has ended their agreement with Milestone. Other counties in Maryland, including Montgomery County, are in the midst of debate and dispute around the placement of cell towers. California has recently prohibited the easing of permits for cell tower companies. Public school systems are an historic and important venue for participatory democracy. I hope people have not forgotten that those appointed, in our case, to represent us should answer to us and be accountable to us. When an overwhelming majority of a community comes out in opposition to the construction of a cell tower on their elementary school, who is listening? I was here last meeting when about 400 signatures were presented stating opposition to the cell tower on the elementary school campus in Shadyside. Where is the accountability? Where is the representation? Public school systems are not for-profit entities. Whether directly or indirectly, public schools should never produce a profit for anyone. When you allow for-profit companies like Milestone to make these deals with you, allow them to engage in advocacy on their own behalf, to sponsor your conferences, rub elbows, and eat panna cotta with you, you diminish what you should stand for and who you ultimately serve. You diminish the foundational principles of a public school system. Please examine this very bad policy and end this Milestone deal.
Thank you. Alexis Villegas and Lisa Rodvian.
Hi, good evening. My name is Alexis Villegas. I am here because of an issue that actually came up today. This afternoon, we received notice that as of tomorrow morning, my daughter's bus stop for Monarch Academy, which in Annapolis, which often these lines are blurred, but I understand that the people who make these decisions are the same ones who are making the decisions for schools like Annapolis Middle. The bus stop was moved further west, and it is now on average over a mile from each student's home. So we have 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds walking now. They're going to be walking a mile to a bus stop in the morning and a mile from the bus stop home in the afternoon. Today, what I did was I found out early on because the parent was at school this morning and sent the notice to my husband. I have a petition from the parents that we would like this reviewed. I contacted the school, who referred me to a Miss Ackers, who did not return my call. She did answer the call of another one of the parents, who said that she could care less what I had to say, didn't care that I would need to hire a nanny to get my kid to pick up my other child from school.
We're not. We don't talk about personnel.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So basically what we did was we went through each channel, and I was pushed off or I wasn't answered. And so what I'm trying to do is catch this early on and speak with you to just bring it to your attention, because as we went through this issue today, it's very short notice. So I haven't fully analyzed it. I don't have copies for everyone, but I do have some information. But from what I saw in the requirements, we are required to have suitable walkways. There's no crosswalk across Edgewood Road that these kids have to. It's a blind curve. It's 25 miles per hour, but people go 40, kind of like all roads in Annapolis, right? And then they're walking very far through a neighborhood and potentially crossing another semi-busy road, which is Georgetown, but it is a more residential road. And then we wanted to, also bring up that we found out the reason that this was moved was because a homeowner across the street who does not have any children was complaining about the children being out there. It wasn't that they were in her yard or that they were bothering her. We gave a power to a homeowner to complain every day. We gave her the power to move that bus stop. So my question is it our policy that if parents complain, we do move bus stops and inconvenience our children, our parents, and, decrease safety? And, it doesn't make sense to me, and I'm wondering if these are policy concerns that maybe I should bring to the board. And like I said, very short notice, but I will put something together that's more comprehensive and email it to all of you. And again, I'll be working with the school to hopefully change it through them, because it does go into effect. Like I said, we got notice this afternoon. It goes into effect tomorrow morning, so hopefully all the kids will know that. But otherwise, we will hopefully be changing it that way. But I wanted to bring it to your attention because I think that there's something that could be done at the school board level as well. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Villegas.
Good evening, Dr. Arlotto, President Hummer, and members of the board. My name is Lisa Rodvian, and I am here because I am well aware that Dr. Arlotto will present his FY18 operating budget in a few weeks. I am asking you to put students and classroom teachers and staff that work directly with children, like counselors and psychologists, at the center of your budget. I realize that you are only one step in the budget process, and there are significant obstacles that you have faced, particularly from the county executive. But I am telling you, or I'm asking you to please, please ask for 100% of what you need. Do not shy away because you think you might not get it. You have advocates who will step up and stand up to the county executive, stand up to the county council, and say this is important and we need it. I ask you to focus 100% of your staffing increases to bring more teachers to the classroom, to more teachers to more classrooms, and again, other personnel that work directly with students. Our class sizes are outrageous, and I'm really interested how MSDE is getting such interesting numbers. I've personally taught a class with 53 students, and I recently learned of a colleague who had a personal record higher than mine of 56 students in one class. I don't even know how that's acceptable. How have we gotten to that point? I also ask you to find something to take off of teachers' plates. When I talk to colleagues at all levels of education, everyone is drowning. When I talked to an elementary school colleague, she said, "We're not drowning, we have drowned." They are literally going entire days with no planning time. Their lunchtime is spent walking children to and from the cafeteria. And then that brings us to the issue of substitute teachers. As you are probably aware, we have a severe shortage of substitute teachers. When I first came to the county, I maybe had to cover 1 or 2 classes on a Friday in the spring when people's travel plans start to take over, people need to go to weddings and graduations and whatnot. I have already covered classes 3 times this year, including once in the month of September, because there are inadequate numbers of substitutes. In some cases, multiple classes are being combined, meaning 2 classes of 30 students now becomes a class of 60-something students. The last thing I want you to, I hope you will ask for, is to bring all teachers back to their appropriate step. I think at some point, folks thought that this problem was just going to disappear, go away over time. It gets worse over time. More and more people leave the county because they can make $10,000, $15,000. I did some research. I found a place I could make $25,000 more by moving to a different county. I'm not going to lie. I'm tempted to do that, but I love it here. I'm committed to Anne Arundel County, and I'm committed to the kids here. And I beg of you, please ask, please ask, please ask. We will advocate every step of the way against all of the challenges that we face. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodman. Is there any other public comment at this time? Okay.
Hi, my name is Angelic Carroll. I'm the PTSA president for Annapolis Middle. I'm here to speak on behalf of our communities in Newtown, Woodside Gardens, and Annapolis Walk. Though I never go over 40 miles an hour on Forest Drive. I don't. I can possibly believe that it is more than 40 miles an hour, and that sidewalk is very skinny. And the idea of 60 students, of my students that I see when I've come and volunteer, walking that every day in what other weather conditions makes me very nervous, makes my board very nervous. So I'm here to speak on their behalf, that we do support them. We do want them to continue to get best service. So please, I support the stay, and I do support that hopefully they win their appeal. I appreciate that the transportation department is trying to save a buck, trying to be cost efficient. I just hope it's not this buck. Thank you.
Hi, Randy Williams, resident of Shadyside, Maryland, and I just want to talk a little bit about safety of the children. We've talked a lot about the health and safety of children on the streets and how dangerous it is for children to be exposed to a clinic such as a substance abuse clinic when they're walking down the street in Annapolis. If they had known that they were going to lose their buses, you can bet the community would have fought that substance abuse clinic. I want to fight the cell tower at Shadyside Elementary School in Hillsmere, since I just heard about that. The fact that we're so worried about our children now, their health and safety is my number one concern, because I am a medical professional. I take care of children. I love children, and I am a nurse. Talking about school budgets, autism, anxiety, ADHD, we are going to be in a horrible position in the next couple of years as children continue to use cell phones, as parents let them have wireless technology in their homes and more at schools, and cell towers at school properties are going to increase the number of children who are affected by radio frequency radiation, and those children will cost the school board millions of dollars over the next many years. So please reconsider cell towers at schools. They're dangerous. They do not help in any way, and you need to read the research about what it's going to do to our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Major Jason Main, United States Army, currently stationed at Fort Meade. I moved here in 2014, summer 2014, ended up in Carrollton Manor in Severna Park, and my son had to walk to school from there, and I was okay with that for a little while until he told me about dodging cars and people stopping and asking him for cigarettes. You know, these were adults. And I thought, I actually moved to Severna Park because I was told that's the best school in the system, and I agree. And it's funny because, I get a phone call when my child sneezes at school. Have you guys ever heard? Welcome, parents. This is Anne Arundel County School Board with an important announcement about Lido Pizza Night. I get an email and a phone call for every little thing that happens. So they're going to take his bus away, and they hand my son, who's got ADD, a piece of paper that says in 3 days or 4 days you're not going to have a bus anymore. And only because I'm vigilant and I go through his backpack every day to help him with his stuff, I see the letter that says, we're taking away bus 155. Okay, well, I lived in Carrollton Manor for 2 years, and I swore that when I was able to afford a house, we were renting, that I would buy a house that had a bus, that my kids, I have 4 kids, and my son's going to high school next year, and then the next 3 are coming up. So I purposely overpaid for the privilege for $440,000 for a house in Sabrina Park because it had a bus stop, and it had a bus that picked up my children and dropped them off safely every day. Okay, that's why I bought that house. I could have gone to Arnold. I could have gone somewhere else for much, much cheaper. But I chose not to because I love Severna Park. I really do. It's I'm from Boston, and for me to like anywhere else is an anomaly. Okay, you Ravens fans and stuff, it's ridiculous, but I love you, right? And you know what? I don't want to make light of anything. I see, we have a lot of Roger that. We have a lot of issues going on here, and a bus seems insignificant. Okay, hey, we're taking away a bus. It's no big deal, We all, right? Anyone who's over 50 here, right? We walk to school 2 miles in the snow both ways with bare feet. All right, I get that. But for me, sir, Mr. Arletto, that was 38 years ago, right? It was 38 years ago I did that. Times have changed, right? But my 28 years in the Army, I've had a lot of bosses, give me last minute, fragos and orders and stuff that were uninformed. And I go back to people not with a problem, but with a solution, all right? And this is the current route that they want my kids to walk. It's 1.44 miles, and they have to go through a path. So it's not even like staying on the road. So here's Severna Park, here's where I live, and here's the middle school. 1.44 miles, right on the fringe, all right? But didn't we, didn't we start the school year a little bit later so our kids could get a little extra sleep. Well, I have to get my son up 45 minutes early so he can walk that extra mile and a half, which is, again, right on the fringe. And then very last second, here's my solution. Right down the street from all of us, from our neighborhood, is a Silas Baptist Church. And it's right next to Early Heights Connector. 7 buses go by there every single day going to the middle school. So don't make my son walk, or my kids walk, a mile and a half to get to school. Let them walk a quarter mile and let the bus pick them up there. That's my solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. May. All right. Next is consent items. Do I have a motion to bundle items 4.01 to 4.15? Second? Do I have a second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do I have a motion to move these items from information to action?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. We now have an action item. Dr. Arlotto, your recommendation.
Yes, ma'am. I recommend that the board approve contracts as listed on today's agenda, 4.01 through 4.15.
Okay. All right. Okay. Do we have any board questions or comments? Do we have any public comment? I think we're all excited to see the first purchases come through for Crofton High School. And so, all those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
sorry,
I
Ms.
just had the comment that basically we'll be going on, is it tomorrow or Friday for tomorrow for the groundbreaking at Crofton.
That's
so basically
right.
it is happening.
It is happening, or at least the first shovelful is
Yes.
happening.
Once you agree to these contracts, it will be happening.
We are committing this money, so it will be happening. So all those in favor? All right. Motion passes. 5.01 is administrative personnel appointments. Are there any board questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor?
You want my recommendation?
Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Arlotto, your recommendation.
I recommend that the personnel listed on that sheet be promoted and or appointed.
Any questions or comments? No, I've skipped that step. All right. All those in favor? Motion passes. All right. Item 5.02 is the strategic plan for Anne Arundel County Public Schools, and we have a presentation. This is an information item. So.
Good evening, President Hummer, Vice President Gilliland, Board of Education members, and Dr. Arlotto. For the record, I'm Maureen McMahon, Deputy Superintendent of Academics and Strategic Initiatives, and I'm here with two of my colleagues, and I'll ask them to introduce themselves.
Good evening. I'm Monique Jackson. I'm Deputy Superintendent for Student and School Support.
Good evening. Jason Dykstra, Executive Director of Instructional Data.
I'm very excited to be here tonight with my colleagues. My two colleagues here, my colleagues behind me, and many of my colleagues who are at home. And we are eager, together, and enthusiastic to present our new AACPS strategic plan.
As you know, I am the historian of this trio, so I will tell you the story of how we came into being. We embarked on the initial planning for the Anne Arundel County Public Schools 2017 through 2022 strategic plan in 2015 under the leadership of our superintendent, Dr. Arlotto. We began the planning process by conducting focus groups throughout the county and various stakeholder groups. We were seeking to find out what the members of the greater school community valued in a public school system. The information we learned from our students, our employees, families, and partners laid a strong foundation for our strategic plan conversations that were yet to come. Through focus groups, surveys, community forums, and regular planning meetings throughout the next 18 months, Both our internal and external stakeholders communicated the qualities and attributes of our school system that they value. They spoke of the positive opportunities Anne Arundel County Public Schools offers that sets us apart from our peers, and they shared their dreams and included their wish list of priorities for us to consider implementing in our school's future.
Our school system's leadership and resource teams reviewed, discussed, even challenged what the proposed values looked like in our classrooms and offices throughout the school system. Smaller working groups had opportunities to provide input about the final 5 driving values and the potential impact they could have if we were to embrace them fully within our school system. Ultimately, over 500 participants representing all stakeholders in geographic regions of the county actively participated in the strategic planning process, not to mention the over 5,600 respondents to our online survey.
So because of this unique process, this plan is indeed unique to Anne Arundel County. The 5 values identified by our stakeholders have been contemplated, reviewed and discussed, pruned and debated by the superintendent, his executive team, our many offices and school-based teams, teachers, employees, students from every corner of the school system, as well as our community members. We're proud as members of this community and as employees of the system to share the final 5 values, the driving values of this plan with you, our board. And here they are. I'm going to pause just for a moment so you can read them. And now Mrs. Jackson will begin to tell you our strategic plan story through the lens of these 5 driving values.
So if we are truly going to make a difference in the lives of our 82,000 plus students, we must begin by making this school system a place where all feel welcome and eventually grow to feel a sense of belonging, a true sense of community. Our students and employees, our parents and community members, they must feel this warmth and goodwill. When kindness, empathy, and respect grow in our schools and our offices, we will become ready to naturally embrace the words of our superintendent, that all means all. And with that, diversity means much more than simply race or ethnicity. Students need diversity in thought and in action. Staff should feel welcomed, embraced, and afforded the opportunities to contribute and to succeed. And we should be able to hire and retain a highly qualified workforce that reflects the ever-changing demographics of our school system.
If we focus and are able to realize values 1 and 2, then the stage will be set for us to grow significantly in our traditional areas of college, career, and community awareness. Certainly, we will continue to support and monitor academic growth, especially in the target areas of mathematics and early literacy, AP and IB exam scores, and Maryland industry certification successes. But we will increase our focus on career awareness, access to and completion of student internships, readiness for career and college entry, and supporting students to independently navigate as confident, caring, contributing citizens, not upon graduation, but rather little by little all along their entire educational pathway. Yes, learning is the key, and we heard this loud and clear from our many stakeholders. But they were clear that they wanted us to concentrate on student learning not only in the classroom, but also before and after school, during summers and weekends, and even in the virtual world. Transcending the natural geographic barriers of this county will be important so that all students can access the wealth of co-curricular activities, sports, events, and clubs we will be offering in our schools, at Anne Arundel Community College, and throughout the county. Creative solutions will need to be found for current transportation challenges.
And to accomplish values 1 and 2, 3 and 4, we need to engage everyone in the AACPS family. We need all hands on deck. Everyone, not just our teachers and our school-based staff. Everyone. Everyone will have the responsibility and privilege to grow our students social, emotionally, physically, and cognitively, to nurture them. This is value 5, and it brings everything full circle. So I'm now going to invite a man with a powerful message to the microphone, a gentleman who really needs no formal introduction, Mr. Josh Carroll, our Maryland State Teacher of the Year.
You know, a lot of the speakers tonight talked about the power of relationships, and that's something that it took me a little bit of time to learn as a teacher, was the power of relationships. And sometimes I think I got too caught up in a test score or a grade and not thinking about that the most important thing that I could do to help a student achieve was help that student understand that they had somebody caring about them, somebody who wanted them to be successful, and that starts with relationships. And I'm truly blessed to work at South River High School, where we have a principal and administrative staff, where everything that we do starts with relationships. And you know, Mr. Myers, I can't tell you enough how many times I remember you standing up in front of faculty meetings, standing up in front of us at the first day of school and saying that our most important job during the first week of each school year is to get to know our students and to get to know who they are as people. Because once you've accomplished that, then you already have them as students. So, Mr. Myers, thank you for your guidance, your leadership, and your support.
We shared this video purposefully. In his acceptance speech from our County Teacher of the Year Awards, Mr. Carroll describes the importance of relationships in schools. He believes, as do the administrators who have mentored him, and all of us here tonight, that there is nothing more important than knowing our students and having respectful relationships with them. Our new strategic plan, with its 5 values, will drive how we navigate the next few years. The importance of building relationships will merge with our long-standing commitment to academic rigor. People are the heart of this plan, and our students will soar socially, physically, emotionally, and academically as we fully engage with the plan.
So this plan is novel in yet one other additional way. It lives in a web-based, non-linear, dynamic space. It's meant to be a living document that's returned to regularly by stakeholders throughout the life of the plan. And here you see the front page of our strategic plan. And yes, right in the middle of it, and purposefully in the middle of it, are our students. There are 8 clickable icons that surround the circle that will allow you to dive deeply into all sections of the plan, as you see fit, kind of in a learning and demand kind of way. In the bottom left corner, you will see the About button, and you'll find our planning process there, our mission, our vision, our highlighted historical successes, the data on which we built this plan, and our imagined future, where our youth will live and learn and lead. There are riches housed behind that red button. As you move around the circle, you may wish to take time reviewing the values you just saw, or the strategies, where we offer resources to schools about how to reach those values and think about how to address them. And then the metrics section. So that's where you'll find our indicators and our tools and our measures. You're going to learn how we intend to measure our progress toward elevating all students and eliminating all gaps. And you will see that we have indicators focused on relationship building, and those focused on academics, and those focused where academics and relationships actually overlap or intersect. Then our timelines show up, where we showcase stories. We spoke of the importance of relationships earlier. Well, relationships are built when people get to know one another. And in this plan, we believe in the power of story as a means to nurture relationships that we seek to grow in our schools and our offices. We know on those kinds of strong foundations, students will soar academically as well. The reports section will house our strategic plan, the annual reports, including questions and answers and comment opportunities for communities to engage. And then the references and the resources in the blue-green area. Here you will find research and popular press articles, digital media, video for educators and the community. And finally, all the way around the circle to the green button titled, How We Are Doing. How are we doing? Here we will post key indicator data regularly throughout the life of the plan so you can see our successes and our challenges as we proceed with implementation. That's new and different. It's important to us that the members of our AACPS community, employees and students and families and partners, are offered time to review and contemplate this strategic plan. You see now, this is the plan on our website. As we have during every step of the strategic planning process, we encourage input from all stakeholders. We are stronger and better equipped to meet the needs of our students when we listen and consider community input. We invite you to review the strategic plan website and complete the feedback form available on the site through November 30th. Links to the plan, this website, will be on a link on our AACPS homepage. And at this time, we'd entertain any questions you may have.
Are there any board questions or comments? I'll say, I know we had one of those community sessions with the board where we provided our input for the plan that I appreciated being part of that as we went along with it. So thank you for all your hard work.
So if I could add that this is, this is still really in draft form. We haven't finalized it because now that we want to present it to the board first and let you take a quick look at it, we want you now to dive deeply into it and get to know it and provide some feedback, both online and certainly as you're meeting with me. Please provide that feedback. We will now release this as of tomorrow to the public, so the public can, and we'll put messages out to the public for them to give us sort of some crowdsourcing on, tell us what they think, and does this match what they, the information they fed us as we went through this process. And then we'll finalize it and we'll come back to the board for a final vote because this is in fact your 5-year strategic plan. This has been a tremendous amount of work. And Mr. Dykstra and Mrs. Jackson and much of the team have put a lot of heart and soul into this. We very much appreciate the public input. There are many people behind the scenes like Carolyn McCurdy and Ms. McEwen back there who's hiding in the corner, Sheila, who's done a tremendous amount of work, but it has all been rallied around Dr. McMahon and your fabulous work. This plan does not look like other school system strategic plans. And that's a direct result is because it's Dr. McMahon has her fingerprints all over it. We're really trying to respond to what the public sees as the most important things, what they value in a public school system. So we are looking forward to your input. Thank you.
Cool. Is there any public comment?
Thank you, Pam Bukowski, Southern High School, Middle School, Phoenix, TAC Vice President. As part of the collaborative between TAC and ASI, I also was privileged, as were probably about 15 or 20 of us, to be part of the discussion, and it was extremely productive and fruitful. And I even tonight saw some of the things that we had talked about implemented within the presentation. So I am very pleased to be part of this as well, and I do certainly commend them. I can only imagine the amount of work that went into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. So next is item 6.01, which is a review item, monthly financial status report and FY 2018 revenue and expenditures projections. This is a review item. Are there any board questions or comments? Is there any public comments? Gentlemen, you may go back. Thank you. So, that concludes our meeting. The next Board of Education meeting is Wednesday, December 6th at 10 a.m. The next Board Policy Committee meeting is Wednesday, December 13th at 1 p.m. The next Board Budget Committee meeting is Wednesday, December 20th at 5 p.m. And do you have a statement? We're not. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, wait. No, I need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Do I have a second? Okay, all those in favor? Meeting is adjourned. I don't think so. I know that